This might be my favourite one yet, I think. Oh, hello. Oh, look at you, you're soaking wet. I can't believe you still came even when there's storm outside. You're positively drenched. Here, just come in. Please, closer to the fire. Let's get you warmed up, shall we? Here. Got a towel here. Do you mind if I just dry you off a bit? Alright, here we are. Thank you for still braving the trip, even with the storm, to come visit me. Blessed Samhain. Is that how you say it? Alright, that's what I thought, but as you know, I'm very new to all of the traditions and things here. Of course, when I invited you to come celebrate Samhain with me, I didn't anticipate such a raging storm outside. Well, I very much appreciate you making the journey. It's very kind of you. It's been a while since we've seen each other. You must be kept very busy, the brave adventurer that you are. Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come and spend a holiday with little old me. There we are. Looking a bit drier now. Please come sit by the fire. Can I make you some tea to warm you up a bit? I promise it's not some strange drow drink this time. It's actually a very normal surface beverage. I've been learning quite a lot, as you know, about different plants and their medicinal properties, as well as what is good to eat, good to prepare. So I thought that we could make a bit of butterfly pea tea. Now this is a lovely little flower, the butterfly pea flower. It has a beautiful purplish colour to it, and it makes a lovely tea that not only is a very pretty colour, but also can bring with it some, well, visions, perhaps you could say. Maybe you don't believe in that side of things. It also is very soothing and very calming, and hopefully will help to warm you up after you walked so long in the rain to get here. Right, let me just get my tea kettle here. There we go. Still nice and hot. I'll just put some of that tea in here. We'll let that steep a bit, alright? And then you can tell me a bit about your village. There we go. That should be enough, I think. There. Let that steep in the hot water. Then I'll pour you a cup. So how has your village been? Anything particularly dangerous? Any strange sicknesses? Good, I'm glad to hear it. Well, I'm always happy to help, of course, should you need it. Oh, this? Well, this was one of my little Samhain traditions that I've been learning about. As you know, I love learning about your festivals and customs here on the surface. It's been very interesting learning about Samhain, the festival that ushers in the end of the harvest, as well as the time of year where the veil between the worlds is the thinnest, and you have your best chance of contacting the dead, and also attracting the attention of perhaps less than savoury spirits. You surface dwellers have a very different idea of death than we do down in the Underdark. You see, most Drow, when they die, their bodies are entombed in crypts that make up the walls of our very large cities, so that someday, if they are needed, their bodies can be risen again as an undead army, you know, that sort of thing. It's actually quite an honour, if you are a very powerful drow, to be cremated instead. That way no one can possess your lifeless corpse for their bidding. But generally we are entombed within the walls of our cities. But do you have much more of a reverence for death and for those who have passed on? It's one of the things I love about surface dwellers. I've learned quite a lot since living up here on the surface, trying to get to know you and perhaps give you and your village a bit of a kinder idea of what a drow can be. Obviously, admittedly, I am the exception to the rule. Not many followers of Eilistraee exist anymore, but there are those of us who see peace and harmony as important, but not many. Anyway, tea should probably be good now. You don't want to steep tea too long. There we are. Different types of tea require different times of steeping so that you get the best flavour without it going bitter. Hopefully we got it right here. Here you are. Butterfly pea tea. I'll have a cup too. I've definitely refined my palate since coming up here as well. Such a wonderful variety of food and drink that we don't have in the Underdark. So I think that's just about right for that tea. Do you like it? Good, good. Anyway, before you got here, I was making a spell jar for Samhain. It's got all kinds of elements for the season and for the celebration. Soil from my garden, symbolising both the element of earth, of course, but also the cycle of life, because you bury your dead in the ground. And so it can be a symbol of death, but it's also where new things grow. So it's also a symbol of life. And some autumn leaves, dried kernels of corn from the harvest, for abundance and gratitude. Cinnamon for strength and courage. Sage for protection. Obsidian crystals for grounding. All kinds of lovely little things in there. Keep that by my bedside, I think, for the night. Anyway, now that you're here, I thought we could do something else to celebrate the season of Samhain. Have you ever had a tarot card reading before? Well, I'm guessing it's probably highly unlikely that you've ever had a tarot card reading from a drow. Tarot is something that is similar to something that the drow mystics practice as well. Of course, for them it's a bit more malicious, power hungry than just seeking insight from the spirits, but seeing as Samhain is a festival where we are the closest to our ancestors and the spirit world, I thought that it might be the perfect time to do a tarot card reading. Is that something that you might be interested in? Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I have my cards here. I was just going to cleanse them in some incense first. Now, I do cleanse them after every reading, of course, to be responsible with things like tarot cards. And I generally have them sitting underneath a beautiful amethyst crystal to cleanse any residual energy and also ward off anything that might try to seep in. But I do like to just use a bit of incense or a smudge stick or something to cleanse them before we get started too. Right. Yeah. Here we are. It's been burning for a while. There's still a bit of smoke there. This is sandalwood incense. It's a very calming scent. One that is perfect for cleansing, purifying, calming the senses, giving clarity. All kinds of wonderful things. So as I'm doing this, I want you to start thinking about the celebration of Samhain. The time of the year where we celebrate the end of the harvest and also remember the dead with reverence. It's a wonderful thing to celebrate a life well lived, celebrate death. Not so much that we crave death, of course, but that we respect it. We have a healthy respect for it. And we know that death is part of life. It's what makes life so special. Alright, should be good and cleansed now. Now, we'll do some shuffling, and I'll tell you about the spread that I thought we could use today. Alright, I'm going to start just shuffling our cards here a bit. Now I thought that we could do a 4-card spread today. I often work in 3s, but there is a special spread just for Samhain that I thought that we could do today. So we're going to pull the first card, and that one is going to answer the question, something that we can harvest. Something in our life that is ready to be collected. Something that we are worthy of taking and experiencing. And then the second card will be something that I should leave behind. We all have things in our lives that we cling to that perhaps we shouldn't. Maybe it's a bad habit, maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's a character trait that we can work on. We're all constantly works in progress, aren't we? So we'll answer the question, what should we leave behind? And then the third card will be quite fun. That will answer the question, where can I indulge? Samhain is a festival after all. Of course there's the more serious, somber side of it, but it also is a time to celebrate the harvest. The final abundance being brought in. So, where is something that you can afford to indulge a bit? Perhaps just something in your life that you can enjoy. And then the final card will be about how we can honour our ancestors on this most hallowed of years. So, are you ready? Alright. Now, first, I'm going to hold this deck out to you and I want you to cut the deck. Wherever you cut it, that will be the first card, alright? And as you get ready to do that, I want you to think about the harvest, times of abundance, because this question will answer what in your life it is time to harvest. Alright? Okay. Now you go ahead and cut the deck for me. Right there. Alright. Then this will be our first card, right here. What should we harvest? Alright, then the second card will be about what we should let go of. Sometimes letting go can be hard. but as I said, we are all works in progress. We all have things that we can let go of. Perhaps it's something as simple as self-doubt, or maybe just a little habit, but whatever it is, it's time to let go. Alright, cut the deck for me again. Right there, okay? Then this card here will be our second. What shall we harvest? And what shall we let go of? Then our third card. Where can we indulge? Perhaps there's something that you've been keeping from yourself. Something you've been trying to do without. Maybe just something that you decided to cut back on, but every once in a while it's alright to indulge. It's good to take care of ourselves. We should all have some pleasures in life, shouldn't we? Alright, go ahead and cut the deck for me again. Right there. Okay. Then this card will be where we should indulge. And then last but not least, perhaps the most important, or at least the most well-known aspect of Samhain, honouring our ancestors. How can we honour our ancestors? Now this card can be sometimes, well, there's a big variety. Sometimes honouring our ancestors is as simple as taking care of ourselves, because that's what they would want. Perhaps there's something else too. Right, one final time. Why don't you cut the deck there? Alright. Good. There is our fourth card. So, our cards here. What can we harvest? What should we let go of? Where can we indulge? And how do we honour our ancestors? Alright, now take a deep breath with me. Let's take a look at our first card here. The Five of Blades. Interesting. Very interesting card to start with. Now this is an interesting card for this particular placement. This is supposed to be something that we are harvesting, but the Five of Blades is generally seen as a warning sign. Speaking perhaps of theft, perhaps of bullying, perhaps of an unwinnable situation or defeat. So that's perhaps feels a bit strange to have in this particular spot, but maybe this means that there has been something in your life, a situation where you have felt like the world is against you, something where you have felt, if not bullied personally, just felt stuck, felt like you were unable to achieve what you wanted. But maybe this card means that that is in the past, and now is the time to win. The time to welcome in an abundance that you haven't had in that area before. It's actually quite encouraging. So perhaps there's something in your life that has been incredibly difficult, and now it's going to be opened up to the Five of Blades. Interesting. fascinating card to start, for certain. Shall we see what our next one is? This is going to answer the question, what should we let go of? And here we have the Knight of Rods, or Wands is what you could call this one. The Knight of Rods. Interesting. Now this is a very interesting card indeed to have for our what should we let go of? Because this is a card that generally has to do with a person who is incredibly fiery, perhaps a passionate relationship, perhaps someone who is intoxicating. But this came up in the spot of something that we are supposed to let go of. Perhaps there's someone in your life. It might not be romantic, but it might be. But there is someone who is perhaps very passionate, and there are times that are good, but there are also times that are not good. And maybe it's time to realize that sometimes the good doesn't outweigh the bad. The good isn't worth the bad, and that you deserve more. You deserve someone who's going to treat you with the respect that every person deserves. Not sure if that makes any sense to you, but it just means that there's someone, even if you don't fully break off whatever relationship it is, perhaps there's just someone who is sapping your energy, your attention. Maybe it's time to just ease off a bit. If someone is not putting as much effort into a friendship as you are, maybe that means that it's time to just stop fighting and trying so hard. Sometimes it's good to let things go. It's how we heal and it's how we grow. Interesting. Quite an interesting reading so far. Now this card is about how we should indulge in this season of harvest and abundance. Here we have the Queen of Elixirs, and she's inverted, she's upside down. Interesting. Quite a lovely card, don't you think? It's a fascinating card to have for this one. Now, generally this card is seen as a person in your life who is very nurturing, very kind, supportive, motivational. Someone who always believes in you no matter what. Now the fact that this card is inverted, that might mean the opposite, or perhaps this means something a bit different. Because we drew this card for what you should indulge in. Perhaps this means that you are someone who is always there for other people. And maybe it's time to, again, perhaps let that go just a bit. If other people are not always there for you, or if being there for other people in such an intense way is harmful for you. It's the old saying, you cannot fill from an empty cup. You cannot help people if you yourself are feeling broken or feeling burnt out, feeling empty. Now, of course, we're all broken people who are constantly a work in progress, as I said, but it comes to the point where sometimes helping other people and putting them ahead of yourself is too much. People can do it too much. So maybe this being inverted means that it's time for you to instead prioritize yourself for a little while. Possibly. Or maybe it does just mean that you have a very nurturing person coming into your life, and it's alright to let them nurture you. Sometimes cards can have different meanings depending on what your situation is. But either way, it's a lovely card. The Queen of Elixirs, or the Queen of Cups, if you would prefer. Alright, and now, our final card here. This one has to do with the ancestors. How can you best honor the ancestors this Samhain? Interesting. Very interesting. This is the card of Judgment. And as you can see, it is also inverted, upside down again, which means that it may have a slightly different meaning. Interesting. This card generally has to do with not judgment like getting into trouble. Well, it can be that, but it's more judgment like you making a judgment call, per se. You making decisions and learning that there are consequences to decisions, but also learning to trust yourself. Pulling the Judgment card often means that perhaps you have a very big decision, or that you are going to receive clarity and a sound mind when you are going to make a decision. Judgment is the second to last card in the Major Arcana. Now, the Major Arcana is basically a person's journey from life to enlightenment. So Judgment comes at the end, close to the end. And this is where we learn that our actions have consequences, and also that we need to listen to our inner calling. Now, because this card is inverted, as I said, when cards are upside down, they can have slightly different meanings. That might mean that perhaps what this is telling you is that you've made a misstep in the past. You've made the wrong judgment call. And maybe it's time to forgive yourself for that. Maybe there was a time when you didn't listen to your intuition, and this is telling you that, again, we are all a work in progress. It's okay to make mistakes. And it's okay to learn. And you don't have to beat yourself up about it. Especially because this is a card that has to do with our ancestors. Honoring our ancestors. Perhaps that instinct that you have, that judgment call, that inner voice that tells you what to do, is your ancestor speaking to you. And so this is telling you that it's time to listen. And it's okay to listen to yourself and trust yourself once again. Interesting. Very interesting. So to harvest this one, maybe there's a situation that has been difficult in your life that is now going to become much more clear to you. Letting go. Perhaps there's someone in your life who has been passionate but not in a good way. That it's time to let them go. And this one, perhaps it's time to prioritize yourself a bit and indulge in that. And maybe it's time to start listening to yourself and your intuition again. Interesting. Well, I hope that was at least a little bit insightful, perhaps. At least maybe some things to think about and ponder this Samhain. It was a very interesting reading. I felt like each of those different cards had multiple layers to it. Different things that it could mean. I suppose that's sort of always the case with tarot, but especially with this reading. Definitely different layers. It's just like the spirits, isn't it? To give us a reading full of nuance on this All Hallowed Eve. Well, thank you for entertaining me anyway. Well, I don't want to keep you too long, seeing as you do have quite the journey back to your village. Unless you wouldn't mind staying here for the night. You're of course always welcome. Then you don't have to brave that storm again. But I understand if you would like to get home and celebrate the rest of Samhain with your loved ones. Are you sure? You certainly don't have to stay. Okay. Well, thank you. I think that would be quite fun. I did actually prepare a dumb supper that we could have if you would like. Do you do a dumb supper generally? Okay, I thought as much. It's a nice idea, creating a feast and then leaving one empty place to symbolize the people that we've lost and also, you know, our more distant ancestors, leaving some space for them at the table. Samhain is a wonderful time to think about our lives and reflect on all that we have been given and all that has made us who we are. And part of that is our ancestors. Everything that they were, everything that they learned, that they passed on to us is, in a small way, part of us. The good and the bad. But it's a good reminder that we all come from so many different layers, just like the layers of meaning in a tarot deck. Each of us as people have layers and layers of meaning as well. And our ancestors are part of that. Well, why don't you keep sitting by the fire there? Make sure that you are nice and cozy warm. I've got just one or two more things to finish up for our lovely dumb supper feast. And then we'll have our feast for Samhain, alright? Okay, you go ahead and get comfortable. Thank you for spending Samhain with me. Blessed be.